Greetings. Today is Monday, May 11th. My daughter is graduating from her Mother's Day out today. I'm very excited for her. She's 3 years old and pretty stoked about going to her graduation ceremony tonight. I'm feeling much better. My sinuses are clearing up, and I started drinking cabbage juice. I've had a problem with my stomach for years, and trying to heal some ulcers in there. I had an appointment this morning with a psychologist. It's been long overdue. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details right at this second, but as to why I chose to go and get checked out. But let's just say there's been some issues over the years. I don't know, maybe joining psychotic cult organizations and whatnot that made me want to take a look at maybe why I was searching for answers. And well, let's just say I'm a psych product now. Just put a stamp right on my forehead. I am a psychotic deviant, and which apparently a lot of artists are, musicians, painters, actors, stuff like that. I'm sure it's not too far-fetched to believe or to think that a lot of creative people think a little differently than your average day-to-day wog. I'm not going to lie, he recommended medication, and it kind of scares me a little bit because of all of the indoctrination about psych drugs, and not even just that. Because I actually had friends, that have taken psychiatric drugs and to wildly varying results. In fact, one of my good friends, one of my best friends ever, one of the best guitar players I've ever known, hung himself a couple years ago, about 6 weeks after my daughter was born, and he was a very dear friend of mine, and he suffered with bipolar disorder for years, and depression, and anxiety, and alcoholism, and just all sorts of things. And he had taken a multitude of psychiatric drugs, and never really got it under. Never really was able to manage his symptoms or his illness, as they call it. So I do still have some very real fears about taking medication. Although I am open to it, I've never been afraid of taking drugs. I'll tell you that right now. I've done pretty much at a certain point in my life. I've done any drug you put in front of me. So I'm not afraid of taking drugs. What I am afraid of is any of the anxiety or paranoia or I guess psychotic deviant behavior would be exaggerated, because I feel like I've been able to control it to a reasonable degree for many years. In my earlier video, I talked about how I got into Scientology and how I was having very bad hallucinations all the time, and how Scientology helped me with that. Well, today, when talking to this therapist, who's a really nice guy, by the way. His name is Bert, Dr. B. And when I was talking to him about how it helped, because I still get hallucinations, I still have peripheral hallucinations, I Sometimes when I'm in a room where there's a lot of tile, repetitive tile, it will kick up a notch and it'll be like, whoa, you know, full-on flashback type thing. However, what I don't have anymore is the anxiety that comes with it. Because when I first got into Scientology, I was completely disabled. I mean, I couldn't hold a job, I couldn't talk to people. When people would talk to me, it physically felt like their words were hurting me. Like it felt like the words were coming out and physically hitting me. And there was a lot of just paranoid behavior and fear and anxiety and stuff associated with the hallucinations. So I don't get those anymore. But what was interesting, he said something very interesting. He said that, you know, whenever someone has a problem like that, they do, it's kind of like a distraction therapy. You occupy your mind with something else. And you try to occupy your mind with something else all the time. You know, constantly, always learning, always doing something, always interacting with something, always reading something, always doing something. And there's a name for it. I don't remember what it's called, but hey, what happened? I joined a cult. I found a way to distract myself from the things that were happening. And since it worked, it did distract me. Slowly the symptoms became less and less and less until I was able to manage them to a point to where the worst part of the symptoms, the anxiety, the paranoia, the thinking that, you know, something's out to get me, the shadows are trying to get me, the trees are trying to get me, those thoughts just became null and void. They just kind of disappeared, and all that was left was just these little visual disturbances. And those were, you know, honestly, they're not that bad. It wasn't like I was having full-blown, you know, purple elephants flying around in the room hallucinations, or spiders crawling all over my body, or my skin crawling or anything. So isn't that interesting? I found that very interesting. I wonder what would have happened if I'd have actually gone into a psych ward or something at that time. This is all just conjecture at this point, because I did have very serious fears if I went into a psych ward with that condition, that I would have been diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, which is a horrible diagnosis because it's a lifelong condition pretty much, and the medications that they give you are pretty hardcore. And I guess it depends on the people who would be there to diagnose and to assess my case as to their competence of how they would, you know, accurately diagnose what I had going on. So, I mean, I could have ended up in a nut ward for the rest of my life, or maybe, you never know, I could have ended up on some sort of distraction therapy, like what the doctor said, and maybe they would have guided me more into my music, you know. Maybe those 10 years that I wasted in a cult mind state, you know, just maybe I would have spent focusing more on music. I don't know. These are just the thoughts I'm having today. I'm feeling pretty good today. I want to tell you more. I really do, and I will over time. But I guess I'll leave it there for right now and just say that I'm now a psych product, and actually this doesn't feel that bad. So if you, I do want to add, if you happen to be a Scientologist or you're on the fringe, and you sat through what I just said, because I know that would have been just a real tough pill to swallow. to say the least. One of the things that I did to sort of start the whole process of analyzing all this stuff for myself and making decisions, it all started with me basically disagreeing with the church and still agreeing with L. Ron Hubbard. So I do want to, in the future, make some videos that are more tailored to people who are still, you know, on their training wheels, I guess. You know, not ready to fully disconnect from Scientology altogether. I know that that's very hard to do. It was very hard for me to do. Very, very hard. I can't overstate that. I look at where I'm at right now, mentally, and I think about where I was even a month ago, much less a year ago. And the process is just, it can be excruciating. It's a mentally draining process, and you're questioning yourself the whole time. There's a whole lot of paranoia and anxiety involved with it, at least for me. But what I would recommend is go on the ex-Scientology forums, and better yet, just read the OT materials. That would probably be my number one thing. Go ahead and read OT3. You're not going to catch pneumonia and die. That should give you a good little handle on and some subjective reality on some of the things that the church tries to hide. Because OT3, all the OT levels, I've read them all now. I've read it all the way up to OT8, I think, whatever's been put out. And let me tell you, I had some real anxiety when I started reading that. I was looking for the symptoms. I was looking for I was looking, am I getting sick? Am I going to catch pneumonia and die? Am I going to catch some kind of weird bug? You know, very, very aware of all my psychosomatic symptoms, and but nothing ever happened. Nothing ever did, and it won't. So if you are on the fringe, you know, and you still believe in LRH, then I say that's all good. You know, there's nothing really wrong with believing what you want to believe. You know, what is wrong is when people tell you what you can and can't believe. So make that decision for yourself, and I'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.